Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of the Quran. I've already read this on my own, but I want to make sure we got episodes of it on YouTube. It's the Saheeh International Translation. We're in Surah 11, Surah Hud, picking up on ayat number 76. Let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The angel said, O Abraham, give up this plea. Indeed, the command of your Lord has come, and indeed there will reach them a punishment that cannot be repelled. And when our messengers, the angels, came to Lot, he was anguished for them, and felt for them great discomfort, and said, This is a trying day. And his people came hastening to him, and before this they had been doing evil deeds. He said, O my people, these are my daughters, they are pure for you, so fear Allah, and do not disgrace me concerning my guests. Is there not among you a man of reason? Man of reason, purer for you. Women are pure. They said, You have already known that we have not concerning your daughters, i.e. women, any claim, i.e. desire. And indeed, you know what we want. That would be quite terrifying, just having a ravenous mob like that. He said, If only I had against you some power, or could take refuge in a strong support. Refuge in a strong support. They, the angels, said, O Lot, indeed we are messengers of your Lord. Therefore, they will never reach you. So set out with your family during a portion of the night, and let not any among you look back, except your wife. And indeed she will be struck by that which strikes them. Indeed, their appointment is for the morning. Is not the morning near? So when our command came, we made the highest part of the city its lowest, and rained upon them stones of layered hard clay, which were marked from your Lord. And it, i.e. Allah's punishment, is not for the wrongdoers very far. So it's interesting, Lot is a prophet, peace be upon him, and yet his wife wasn't good enough to be with him in the end, and she was going to be with the wrongdoing people. So don't lose hope, gentlemen, ask for good wives, but Lot, he'll have something better in paradise, inshallah. So don't feel bad if you ended up getting stuck with somebody who is not that great. And to Madian we sent their brother Shuaib. He said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him, and do not decrease from the measure and the scale. Indeed, I see you in prosperity, but indeed I fear for you the punishment of an all-encompassing day. And O my people, give full measure and weight in justice. And do not deprive the people of their due, and do not commit abuse on earth, spreading corruption. Islam tells us, don't commit abuse on the earth, don't spread corruption. What remains lawful from Allah is best for you, if you would be believers. But I am not a guardian over you. They said, O Shuaib, does your prayer, i.e. religion, command you that we should leave what our fathers worship, and fathers worship, or not do with our wealth what we please? Indeed, you are the forbearing and the discerning. He said, O my people, have you considered, if I am upon clear evidence from my Lord, and He has provided me with a good provision from Him, and I do not intend to differ from you in that which I have forbidden you, and I only intend reform as much as I am able, and my success is not but through Allah. Upon Him I have relied, and to Him I return. Relying on Allah, another key aspect. And O my people, let not your dissension from among me cause you to be struck by that similar to what struck the people of Nuh, or the people of Hud, or the people of Saleh, And the people of Lot are not from you far away, and ask forgiveness of your Lord, and then repent to him. Indeed, my Lord is merciful and affectionate. They said, O Shuaib, we do not understand much of what you say. Indeed, we consider you among us weak. And if not for your family, we would have stoned you to death. And you are not to us one respected. That one, okay, so you're not to us one respected. There's a phrase that says, I don't care about your applause because I've seen what makes you clap. Or another one is like, I don't care about your approval because I've seen what makes you cheer. He said, O my people, is my family more respected for power by you than Allah? But you put him behind your backs in neglect. Indeed, my Lord is encompassing of what you do. And O my people, work according to your position. Indeed, I am working. You are going to know to whom will come a punishment that will disgrace him, and who is a liar. So watch. Indeed, I am with you, a watcher, awaiting the outcome. So work according to your position. Do what you can. You may not be, when I hear something like that, you may feel bad that you don't have the finances to make as many masjids as you wish you could. You don't have enough money to sponsor as many orphans as you'd like, but you do the best with what you got. It's really a powerful one. And when our command came, we saved Shuaib and those who believe with him by mercy from us. And the shriek seized those who had wronged, and they became within their homes, corpses fallen prone, as if they had never prospered therein. Then away with the Madian as Thamud was taken away. And we did certainly send Moses with our signs and a clear authority to Pharaoh and his establishment. But they followed the command of Pharaoh, and the command of Pharaoh was not at all discerning. He will precede his people on the day of resurrection and lead them into the fire, and wretched is the place to which they are led. And they were followed in this world with a curse and on the day of resurrection, and wretched is the gift which is given. I like that. Wretched is the gift which is given. We often associate gifts with something you want. We often forget that a gift can bring something terrible along with it. And a gift has this sort of aura of goodness. But here we see that it can be the opposite. That is from the news of the cities, which we relate to you. Of them, some are still standing, and some are as a harvest mowed down. And we did not wrong them, but they wronged themselves, and they were not availed at all by their gods, which they invoked other than Allah, when there came the command of your Lord, and they did not increase them in other than ruin. So the more you supplicate to what is not real, what is not true, that is that which is not Allah, you just bring upon your own ruin. And thus is the seizure of your Lord when he seizes the cities while they are committing wrong. Indeed, his seizure is painful and severe. Indeed, that is a sign for those who fear the punishment of the hereafter. That is a day for which the people will be collected, and that is a day which will be witnessed. And we do not delay it except for a limited term. The day it comes, no soul will speak, except by his permission. And among them will be the wretched and the prosperous. As for those who were destined to be wretched, they will be in the fire. From them therein is violent exhaling and inhaling. Like, like that's when you're really, really afraid. I mean, if you've ever had that type of panic attack, that doesn't encapsulate how intense that is. But if you've ever had just a really severe shock of terror, you'll begin to notice that regulating your breathing is not at all easy. Not at all easy. It's pretty scary when you think about it. They will be abiding therein as long as the heavens and the earth endure, except what your Lord should will. Indeed, your Lord is an effector of what he intends. And as for those who were destined to be prosperous, they will be in paradise, abiding therein as long as the heavens and the earth endure, except what your Lord should will, a bestowal uninterrupted. A bestowal uninterrupted, just in concession. No intervals. So do not be in doubt, O Muhammad, as to what these polytheists are worshipping. They worship not except as their fathers worshipped before, and indeed we will give them their share undiminished. And we had certainly given Moses the scripture, but it came under agreement, and if not for a word that proceeded from your Lord, it would have been judged between them. And indeed, they are, concerning it, i.e. the Qur'an, in disquieting doubt. And indeed, each of the believers and disbelievers, your Lord will fully compensate them for their deeds. Indeed, he is acquainted with what they do. So remain on a right course, as you have been commanded, you and those who have turned back with you to Allah. And do not transgress, indeed he is seeing of what you do. And do not incline towards those who do wrong, lest you be touched by the fire. And you would not have other than Allah any protectors, then you would not be helped. So don't incline towards those who do wrong. That's important especially when it comes to gang members. People who are really into sin. And establish prayer at the two ends of the day, and at the approach of the night. Indeed, good deeds do away with misdeeds. That is a reminder for those who remember. And be patient, for indeed Allah does not allow to be lost the reward of those who do good. So here, let's say, some women will be like, my husband don't do this, my husband don't do that. But if you really think about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's gonna reward you for every good that you did. And that's not going to be it's not going to work against you. So someone may not be perfect, and you may have weird standards that you may change later, but you just have to work through things and keep doing good. And even if they still remain doing something that you think is not the best, you just keep reminding them, you keep trying your level best to be encouraging, live by example. Allah will reward you for the good that you do. Don't forget. So having patience in and of itself is very important and a good deed. So why were there not among the generations before you those of enduring discrimination, forbidding corruption on earth, except a few of those who saved from among them? But those who wrong pursued what luxury they were given therein, and they were criminals. And your Lord would not have destroyed the cities unjustly, while their people were reformers. So you see the destruction of cities, that's an interesting angle there. And if your Lord had willed, he could have made mankind one community, but they will not cease to differ. That's true. You just look at how people fight during the Super Bowl. That's extremely alarming. You'll see politics as well. You'll see all sorts of things that cause people to divide themselves. I mean, look at America. They differ on what a woman is. You say, yeah, we all know what a woman is. Now, no. We don't know anymore. Well, we Muslims know. But even liberal Muslims are trying to ruin that. Except whom your Lord has given mercy, and for that he created them. But the word of your Lord is to be fulfilled, that I will surely fill hell with jinn and men all together. And each story we relate to you from the news of the messengers is that by which we make firm your heart, and there has come to you in this the truth, and an instruction, and a reminder for the believers. And say to those who do not believe, work according to your position. Indeed, we are working. And wait, indeed, we are waiting. And to Allah belong the unseen aspects of the heavens and the earth, and to Him will be returned the matter, all of it. So worship Him and rely upon Him, and your Lord is not unaware of that which you do. So here, for the Muslim mindset, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching. For the atheist mindset, they need Skynet, like in China, to constantly observe you, a surveillance state, in order to keep you in check. Erase religion, people no longer have that fear in them, then the government steps in and says, well, we have to make you afraid somehow. Surah Yusuf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif Lam Ra. These are the verses of the clear book. Indeed, we have sent it down as an Arabic Qur'an, that you might understand. We relate to you, O Muhammad, the best of stories, in what we have revealed to you of this Qur'an, although you were before it among the unaware. Of these stories mention when Joseph said to his father, O my father, indeed I have seen in a dream 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrating to me. He said, O my son, do not relate your vision to your brothers, or they will contrive against you a plan. Indeed, Satan to man is a manifest enemy. Here again, you'll see people who say like, oh, Islam is a religion that worships Satan. And you're like, do you not even bother to open up the Quran and see that we Muslims are warned constantly against Satan? It's wild to me. But the dark arts, the occultists, especially the occultic feminist women, they serve Shaitan. So if you remember that who their master is, you understand they are your manifest enemy as well. Whoever serves in the legions of Shaitan isn't serving Allah. You need to be very wary. And thus will your Lord choose you and teach you the interpretation of narratives, i.e. events of dreams, and complete His favor upon you and upon the family of Jacob, as He completed it upon your fathers before, Abraham and Isaac. Indeed, your Lord is knowing and wise. Certainly, there were in Joseph and his brothers signs for those who ask, such as when they said, Joseph and his brother are more beloved to our father than we, while we are a clan. Indeed, our father is in clear error. Kill Joseph or cast him out to another land. The countenance, i.e. attention of your father, will then be only for you, and you will be, after that, a righteous people. Here, this is sibling rivalry. This one affects my heart deeply because I had that with my sister. Now, in the Christian narrative, like Joseph, King of Dreams, they have an interpretation where Jacob kind of brought this on himself for the way in which he showed some of his favoritism towards Joseph in the Islamic tradition. The onus is more upon the brother's personal inability to really regulate his own envy. Okay? And that sibling rivalry can stick there for a while. I have learned a lot from this part of the Quran, because I always encourage my children. I'll say, like, teamwork makes the dream work. We're all one tribe. Pardon me. We are a family. And I made sure when the youngest was born, I said, if you start to feel jealous with how much the attention the baby's getting, let me know. And there was a time where she came and said, I feel like the baby gets all the attention and I don't get any. So we made sure to make her feel special too, because a baby needs a lot more care. And you know, when your kids are older, you're like, okay, they can kind of, it's not that they're fending for themselves, but occupy themselves more, right? They need less soothing, and you have to make sure that they don't feel unloved, untended to, and to reestablish the kindness with them, because if you let that fester, they'll become rivals. It's all up to Allah, their destiny, but I do believe us parents have a role to play. And so, when it talks about the attention of your father will then be only for you, you see, this is like a child who wants their parents' love but isn't getting it, and when they're not getting it, they're like, "Urgh," you know? What people will do to each other, to their own blood. It's a very serious conversation. Said a speaker among them, oh wait, killed Joseph, oh yeah. Said a speaker among them, do not kill Joseph, but throw him into the bottom of the well. Some travelers will pick him up if you would do something. They said, O our father, why do you not entrust us with Joseph? Well, indeed, we are to him sincere counselors. This part is also interesting because it hints at, you, as a parent, you can see when it's not the best idea to leave one of your children with the other. And when you don't kind of have that instinct, I think that's when you get these cases, these crime cases where a brother murders a brother, a sister, a brother, a sister, you name it, a step sibling. You know, you may be family, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a moment where that person can become dangerous due to their unchecked, unmitigated jealousy, or just something in general wrong with their personality. You know, that's so important. Very important. I don't think that gets talked about enough. It's like, you'll see some parents, they'll just leave their kids with one of the other siblings, and then you have to recognize, it's this kid. We can let them watch the other kid, but we have to watch them while they're watching. Can't just blindly trust, right? Observing them. I think it's really important. And then it mentions here, while indeed we are to him sincere counselors. Send him with us tomorrow, that he may eat well and play, and indeed we will be his guardians. Jacob said, Indeed it saddens me that you should take him, and I fear that a wolf would eat him while you are of him unaware. So you see this parental guardian. Now, let's say there's a local park, and you know, you got the other children there. You let them take the youngest to the park, and you feel you're like, you worry about gang members. You worry about just drug addicts. I mean, liberals and libertarians really coddle the drug addicts, so it's very common for your kid to be in the park and a mumbling homeless drug addict goes in and causes them problems. They are the wolves of our day. We live in the concrete jungle now, and the predators are other humans. So, when I read this, it's like, people get out of touch. Also, okay, a wolf in their time, a pit bull in our time. I just have a screenshot in my phone I was going to post where a guy's like a person's walking. There's just a rabid pit bull just wandering around barking at people. And that dog, if it latches onto your arm, shred you like mozzarella. And I think people should have a license. Okay? These dogs are being banned in certain countries just because of how aggressive they are. How willing they are to maul random people. And how they're just so strong that it's like having a weapon. Right? So, I got 13. When he talks about that he fears a wolf would eat him, we have two examples of that in the modern age. A pit bull or a homeless drug addict or a gang member. Because those are our predators of today in the concrete jungle. They said if a wolf should eat him, while we are a strong clan, then indeed we would then be losers. So you see this sort of protection coming in. Protect one another, united. But you can see, we know now, they're not sincere, they're not guardians, and they're not a strong clan wanting to protect the weak among them, the vulnerable, as they should, right? So, when they took him out and agreed to put him into the bottom of the well, but we inspired to him, you will surely inform them someday about this affair of theirs while they do not perceive your identity. Think about how scary that is. The people you love, the people who were supposed to guard you and protect you, betray you and put you down a well. Think about the confined space if you're claustrophobic. I mean, the smell of the water and the darkness, how deep it was as well. That's intense, okay? Not really, and it also just being put in there, you wonder how did they put him in there? Did they drop him in there, chuck him in there? Lower him gently. And each one, the descent is going to be very powerful. Because if you look at, okay, if they drop you in, you could bump your head on the side of the wall and be unconscious. If you land wrong, you'll bust up your knee. If you're slowly lowered, there's this slow realization that of your betrayal. When it's instant, like, bam, all happens fast, your reaction is different. But a slower lowering, you're like, what do you do to that? Built up tension of fear, betrayal, all that jazz. It's very heartbreaking. And they came to their father at night, weeping. So the weeping thing, see, like, okay, women can do weaponized fake crying. Crocodile tears, we call it. Lágrimas de cocodrilo in Spanish. Or there's also a saying called tequila tears. Alcohol can make the biggest liars appear genuine because they can cry easier when they're drunk. So a liar knows to cry when they're drunk because it's easier to manipulate their own selves. But the acting, right? This is why when I watch more police interrogations, you'll see the most vicious criminals cry. And I think that women, we are more susceptible to the tears because we have, we're emotional compassion, empathy. You know, you see someone crying and you're like, well, they must be telling the truth. How can they muster up these fake tears? But if you see men, they're less moved by tears, I'd argue. And they cut right down to the chase. Cut through the BS. They want to see what's going on here. And that's why when you just notice different styles of judges, you know, and when you notice the really good police interrogators, they don't fall for the tears. And then once you see enough guilty people who have video and DNA evidence of their crimes, how they were able to cry and make themselves the victims, you're like, huh, that's crazy. For example, I've shared this story before. There was once a nurse who filmed herself and was lying about some tragedy that was happening in the hospital during the sweet and sour sniffles era. And I was like, wow, that must be true, man. That's crazy. Like how she's lying, her face is all red, snot's coming out of her nose. You know, that's crazy. And then it comes out that she was trying to be an aspiring actress, and it wasn't real at all. And then you're like, ugh, man, I gotta be more careful. So tears don't mean nothing. And here in the Quran, we get a clue They came weeping. They knew what they did. They plotted, but they were still able to cry. You know, you're like, oh. So the Quran gives us a heads up on that type of manipulation tactic. They said, "Oh, our father, indeed, we went racing each other and left Joseph with our possessions, and a wolf ate him. But you would not believe us even if we were truthful. And they brought upon his shirt false blood." Jacob said, "Rather your souls have enticed you to something. So patience is most fitting, and Allah is the one sought for help against that which you describe." And there came a company of travelers, and they sent their water drawer, and he let down his bucket. He said, "Good news, here is a boy." And they concealed him, taking him as merchandise, and Allah was knowing of what they did. So he, gets to be a type of slave, sold as a slave. So your own brothers sell you as a slave, to be called merchandise. And they sold him for a reduced price, a few dirhams, and they were concerning him of those content with little. And the one from Egypt who brought him said to his wife, "Make his residence comfortable. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son." And thus we established Joseph in the land, that we might teach him the interpretation of events, i.e. dreams. And Allah is predominant over his affair, but most of the people do not know. So look at Joseph. He resisted a beautiful, powerful harlot, okay, who tried to entice him. And he was able to deal with this ordeal. That mental fortitude, okay? The mental fortitude of being betrayed, but of also having to deal with people who treat you and see you as merchandise, and to still remain positive and good in your disposition. Didn't give up and wallow. Yeah, it's fascinating. The test and trial. You see how tough he is as well. It's just amazing. And when he, i.e. Joseph, reached maturity, we gave him judgment and knowledge, and thus we reward the doers of good. So he got rewarded with good judgment and knowledge. Oh, don't judge me. Don't judge me. But judging is of so many variations. To assess something shows its quality. You're assessing a situation. You're assessing a product. Assessing a marriage. Assessing an animal that you're going to have. Everything requires a form of judgment. And that ability to really get into the roots, the nitty-gritty, to assess, to discern. It's a gift. Think about that. Think about it. You're able to perceive, have that knowledge. People today be like, "I'd rather be a retard with a low IQ and have a Bugatti than be smart and poor." And you're like, come on now. And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. She closed the doors and said, "Come, you." He said, "I seek the refuge of Allah. Indeed, he is my master, who has made my residence good. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed." So you can see that, come. She's assertive in what she wants. Right? Closes the door. Being sneaky. She knows what she's up to. Alright? Now, someone like Joe Rogan and other degenerates, Andrew Schultz, they'd be like, yeah, this is totally great, I believe Gordon Ramsay, he bragged about sleeping with his boss's wife when he was younger. So you can see how there's lots of men who are like, yeah, let's get the boss's wife. That's a notch on our belt. That's not an Islamic value. An atheist value, no doubt. A hedonistic, secular, liberal value, no. We're called to be better than that. Okay? See, and he says here something interesting as well. Indeed, he is my master. Allah is his master, not Shaitan. Shaitan's like, hey, let's do this, let's do adultery all day, but not us. And she's certainly determined to seduce him, and he would have inclined to her had he not seen the proof, i.e. the sign of his Lord. And thus it was that we should avert from him evil and immorality. Indeed, he was of our chosen servants. So, evil and immorality. If a married woman comes to seduce you as a single man, this is immoral, this is evil. Okay? And they both raced to the door, and she tore his shirt from the back, and they found her husband at the door. She said, "What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your wife, but that he be imprisoned, or a painful punishment?" Again, we saw how in ayat 16, men using, how you can use men and women in general, like they'll use tears as a weapon. We learn, look at that, people will fake cry to manipulate. Don't just believe every dripping eye. Here we see a crazy, skankish woman, a harlot, a Jezebel, an Ishtar, will punish an innocent man because she can't handle rejection, and she will save her own self from what her own hands did in order to not receive that punishment. And it's just quite fascinating. Quite fascinating. Because I like it when women are held accountable for their wickedness. A feminist would try to twist this today as, well, he shouldn't have been so handsome. Well, he should have ran out. Like, faster or earlier. They'll always try to twist it to be on the man instead of saying that's whorish behavior. Okay? So, think about it. She put all the blame on him. This also makes me think of the Me Too movement. Believe all women, the feminists say. Right? The Me Too. Just make accusations with zero proof. And, ruin those men's reputations. See, the door was closed. Seclusion. A man, if you were a man and you were working in an office, you have office hours, you're a teacher, keep that door open. Be very careful of being isolated with women. Keanu Reeves, that actor, he has pictures where he'll put his hand far away where he won't touch women. And then people say, oh, look what the world's come to. You can't even put your hands on the waist of a woman. And then you'll see how these same people will tell, like, oh, George W. Bush, him and his dad, they would just touch women without their consent. And then you see, like, these women know exactly what they're doing. And they can entrap you. Okay? Be careful. Don't be alone with them. The seductress needs you to be isolated. When she gets you alone, she gets in trouble, she'll flip the script and try to ruin your life. So it just shows you that women will try to ruin your life if you don't give them what they want. They're in the wrong. They do not care. They'll still try to ruin your life and forsake it. Islam let us know way before, this Me Too crap going on. It's like, hey, watch out. Watch out. Watch your back. If you're a man with status, you are an honorable man, stop trusting women. Okay? Be careful out there. Be careful. Shaitan, he has his women who serve him. Joseph said, it was she who sought to seduce me, and a witness from her family testified. If his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and he is of the liars. But if his shirt is torn from the back, then she has lied, and he is of the truthful. So when he, i.e. her husband, saw his shirt torn from the back, he said, indeed it is of your, i.e. women's plan. Indeed your plan is great, i.e. vehement. Joseph, ignore this. And my wife, ask for forgiveness for your sin. Indeed you were of the sinful. And the women in the city said, the wife of Al-Aziz is seeking to seduce her slave boy. He has impassioned her with love. Indeed, we see her to be in clear error. So, when she heard of their scheming, she sent for them, and prepared for them a banquet, and gave each one of them a knife, and said to Joseph, "Come out before them." And when they saw him, they greatly admired him, and cut their hands, and said, "Perfect is Allah. This is not a man, this is none but a noble angel." She said, "This is the one about whom you blame me, and I certainly sought to seduce him, but he firmly refused. And if he will not do what I order him, he will surely be imprisoned, and will be of those debased." See that? If he won't do what I want, I'm gonna punish him. See that? And it's like almost still at this point has no accountability. Like, oh, because he's attractive, it means it's okay for me to not control myself. Right? Okay, this just made me think about women will say, "I want monogamy. I want the richest guy, you know, he has to always lower his gaze, and I'm going to deny him relations, and all these women are throwing themselves at him constantly, and if he slips up even in the most slightest of way, I'll divorce him, he won't be able to see his kids." And they always say, like, well, men should lower their gaze, men should lower their gaze, men should lower their gaze. I'm going to beautify myself with 70 pounds of makeup and wear the most lewd clothing possible. Men should lower their gaze. But if you notice here, the woman flipped it, as always. Like, oh, you blamed me, but look, he's so handsome. How could I possibly be held accountable for my actions? None of that. She didn't say, oh, I should have lowered my gaze. You see that? It's fascinating. The arguments, they shift. He said, "My lord, prison is more to my liking than that to which they invite me. And if you do not avert from me their plan, I might incline toward them, and thus be of the ignorant." He's choosing prison, which is horrible, the environment, instead of being a man whore, instead of choosing sin, instead of letting the rich Ishtar to seduce him. Think about that. Today, some men are so low quality, so low stock, they'd actually make fun of somebody for resisting. "What are you, scared of women? You scared of women?" They would mock him. Right? Think about that. And there's also some women who will as well. Like, "What are you afraid of? You're afraid of a little fun? Oh, you can't handle it? Ugh." Trust me. The liberals have degraded society so much so that they literally have a term, incels. Like, if a guy doesn't have a girlfriend, you know, he doesn't have a wife, they'll call him an incel and call him a threat. And you're like, he's keeping himself. He may not be chosen, like maybe no one wants him, but he's chosen to be withheld, like to keep it all together, and they mock him for that, you know. And then there's more and more teachers in America who are female getting caught doing things with 11-year-old, 14-year-old boys, and then you'll see men be like, "What are the boys scared of? Wish I had a teacher like that." But you have to think about how some of them little boys, they're pressured and they're afraid, and you know, you can teach them the story of Joseph, like, to fear Allah. You don't have to be a victim of a woman, right? The feminists don't acknowledge those types of crimes. They're always pointing to the men. But I remember T.J. Kirk. He was called the Amazing Atheist. Now his channel's called Into the Fray. But he shared once on Joe Rogan that he had a female boss who was like really touching him inappropriately, like harassing him, and it was pretty scary when a woman who you're not attracted to, not that it would be better if she was attractive, because this lady was attractive, but it's so awkward when a woman who you don't want to pursue you is pursuing you as well. And now, like, women will push themselves on people, and then if you are honorable and then an attractive woman is pushing on you, it's another kind of struggle, right? And so for him, chewing prison is just amazing. So his Lord responded to him and averted from him their plan. Indeed, he is the hearing, the knowing. Then it appeared to them, after they had seen the signs, that he, i.e. Al-Aziz, should surely imprison him for a time. And there entered the prison with him 2 young men, One of them said, "Indeed, I have seen myself in a dream pressing wine." The other said, "Indeed, I have seen myself carrying upon my head some bread from which the birds were eating. Inform us of its interpretation. Indeed, we see you to be of those who do good." He said, "You will not receive food that is provided to you except that I will inform you of its interpretation before it comes to you. That is, from what my Lord has taught me. Indeed, I have left the religion of a people who do not believe in Allah, and they, in the hereafter, are disbelievers. And I have followed the religion of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it was not for us to associate anything with Allah. That is from the favor of Allah upon us and upon the people, but most of the people are not grateful. O my two companions of prison, are separate lords better, or Allah, the one, the prevailing? You worship not besides him except mere names. You have named them, you and your fathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. So sent down no authority. It's a really wonderful way to put it. Legislation is not but for Allah. He has commanded that you worship not except him. That is the correct religion, but most of the people do not know. So Tawheed comes in right here. Don't worship anyone other than Allah. Nothing. No stupid saints. We don't got no Pope. We don't got no nothing like that. Shirk leads to the flames. We ain't trying to have all that in our lives. O two companions of prison, as for one of you, he will give drink to his master of wine. But as for the other, he will be crucified, and the birds will eat from his head. The matter has been decreed about which you both inquire. And he said to the one whom he knew would go free, "Mention me before your master." But Satan made him forget the mention to his master, and he, i.e. Joseph, remained in prison several years. And subsequently the king said, "Indeed, I have seen in a dream 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 that were lean, and 7 green spikes of grain, and others that were dry. O eminent ones, explain to me my vision, if you should interpret visions." They said, "It is but a mixture of false dreams, and we are not learned in the interpretation of dreams." But the one who was freed and remembered after a time said, "I will inform you of its interpretation, so send me forth." He said, "Joseph, O man of truth, explain to us about 7 fat cows, eaten by 7 that were lean, and 7 green spikes of grain, and others that were dry, that I may return to the people, i.e. the king and his court. Perhaps they will know about you." Joseph said, "You will plant for 7 years consecutively, and what you harvest leave in its spikes, except a little from which you will eat. Then will come after that 7 difficult years, which will consume what you advanced, i.e. saved, for them, except a little from which you will store." Here, you get to see an insight to, okay, in winter, you know you have to save, right? This is where animal husbandry comes in. Fatten up your cow as much as you can for the winter slaughter. Okay? Pickling, jams, all that jazz. Desert people have their own cycles too. Some places have longer growing seasons, but you can see here planning ahead, storing food, not being spendthrifts. Oh, don't plan for hard times, you know. And this also shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has these cycles of decreased times and then times of plenty. Then will come after that a year in which the people will be given rain, in which they will press olives and grapes. And the king said, "Bring him to me." But when the messenger came to him, Joseph said, "Return to your master, and ask him what is the case of the women who cut their hands. Indeed, my lord is knowing of their plan." Said the king to the women, "What was your condition when you sought to seduce Joseph?" They said, "Perfect is Allah. We know about him no evil." The wife of Al-Aziz said, "Now the truth has become evident. It was I who sought to seduce him, and indeed he is of the truthful." Finally, accountability. That is so he, i.e. Al-Aziz, will know that I did not betray him in his absence, and that Allah does not guide the plan of the betrayers. So he cared about not, hurting that one who helped him out. "And I do not acquit myself. Indeed, the soul is persistent and joiner of evil, except those upon which my Lord has mercy. Indeed, my Lord is forgiving and merciful." And the king said, "Bring him to me. I will appoint him exclusively for myself." And when he spoke to him, he said, "Indeed, you are today established in position and trusted." You see that? That's amazing. He got rewarded to be serving the king, the ruler. You see that? A hedonistic atheist, a Joe Rogan, Ori Shafir, Brian Callen, Brendan Schaub type of person, they would have said no, instant gratification. Be in the fields. Do anything you want. Indulge in your impulses. Indulge in your passions. Don't hold off. Don't. But you see how Allah is the best of planners and rewards the doers of good. You can see that. Joseph said, "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Indeed, I will be a knowing guardian." And thus we established Joseph in the land to settle therein, wherever he willed. We touched with our mercy whom we will, and we do not allow to be lost the reward of those who do good. See the hope. Don't despair. Do good. He went through prison, man. He was thrown in a well, betrayed by his brothers. Now he's got a great job, appointed over managing the storehouses. He's working for the king. But if he had just given up and said, "Woe is me, my life means nothing because I was betrayed by those who loved me." No, he didn't wallow. You have to keep on keeping on. And he didn't let that trauma drag him down. There's people who will stay in the victimhood Olympics. I can't do this because I had this bad in my childhood. I can't do this because I had a bad husband. I can't do this because I had a bad wife. No, you keep going. But you gotta stay good. See, he didn't lose hope. He was patient. He didn't turn evil because he went to jail. And I'm sure that their jails were not as comfortable as ours are today. So you have to remember that. When the hadiths that talk about even the prickling of a thorn is an expiation for sins, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the amount of suffering you go through, you're going to be expiations of your sins. If you keep doing good and have patience, you're going to be rewarded for that. Allah is swift in accounting. There will be rewards for those who do good. There's so much to give you hope. Okay, so when an atheist comes to you and says with their nihilism, their pessimism, their cynicism, you just got to reject that and be like, I'm going to keep doing good. Not going to turn to the dark side. And I'm not going to judge my current condition as bad necessarily. Because some people will be like, well, now look what you got. Your God must not love you because you're in this tough position. And you're like, Look how Joseph was in prison. He chose to do what was right instead of indulging in lust. Right? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And the reward of the hereafter is better for those who believed, and were fearing Allah. Fearing Allah. Christians say, oh no, they never talk about fearing God. Oh, God loves you. Jesus died for you. It's always this selfish little type of angle if you really look at it. He died for you, so you owe him. And that's not very compelling, because you didn't ask that person to die for you. Why should you hold that against me when I didn't tell him to do it? But if you say fear Allah, Then the Christians will be like, oh, we're his children, we're God's children. There's lovey-dovey, you know, they call the priest father, and you're like, what? It's really strange. For us, it's like you need to have that fear. Because Christians, they lost that fear of God, and look what they've done. Their women don't obey. Their women are more feminist than we realize. A lot of them won't dress modestly. Like, you got Christians out here wearing the cross while their cleavage is out. You got Kanye West out here running adult entertainment companies while wearing a cross, preaching about Jesus. And then you see the Catholics having a very frail looking Jesus that's whipped and scourged and defeated on a cross, parading it through the streets. You can't fear something that looks so pathetic. When you can't fear something that looks weak. We call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty. Almighty. Alright? That evokes something different in you. See, there's something psychological here. When you show Jesus as this, because if they believe Jesus is God, you're showing God as whipped and defeated, and he was whipped and defeated and made to cry and bleed by his own creation, by humans, because God created humans, right? And then wood and nails held down the creator of the universe? What is going on here? But I know there's different denominations and the way they interpret that, but just look at it. But for us, we know Allah is Almighty. You can't escape. Okay? No one can hold back what Allah will do to you. And even Shaitan fears Allah. Now, in a lot of Christian art, you'll see Jesus doing an arm wrestle with the devil. This makes it appear as if those are two equal energies. Okay? No. What is that Andrew Tate once said? You know, everything opposite and equal reaction. Everything has an opposite and equal reaction. And then he talked about good and evil. And it's like, no. Nothing in existence is equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan is a jinn. A jinn is not comparable to the creator of the universe. There's nothing like Allah. He's the one. Okay? If Allah is going to give you something good, no one can prevent it. He's going to bring some wrath and punishment, no one can stop it. Period. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits the shaitan to do something. The shaitan can never do something that Allah hasn't allowed to happen. You see what I'm saying? Shaitan cannot overpower Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people will not fear God, but they will fear the devil. Then they'll worship the devil because they no longer fear God. That's what's weird. They fear the devil more than they fear God because they have got this idea that God is this crying, bleeding, highly emotional creature because of the Christian iconography. And there's something psychological. The Greeks depict Heracles and Zeus as mighty men, right? They're gods. They're pagan fake gods as strong, cunning. Apollo getting a lot of booty. You look at them, Mars, the god of war they had. They didn't depict it as weak. Jesus was depicted as very soft. And someone who was beaten really easily, dragged and scourged. That's a different type of... You know, it's hard for humans to follow weakness. It's hard for humans to follow something that isn't strong. You know, and I think that stems from when you're going into battle, you want a strong leader to make you kind of boost up. This is why when you see all these movies, they always have some type of example where the leader goes in front of the troops and is giving them a pep talk. Okay? Or you see, like, for example, in Game of Thrones, to give you an example, Tyrion mentions, like, the people, the soldiers get more motivated when the king is on the field of battle. They see the king leave, now their motivation goes down because now you see the king isn't willing to die with you, but just command you, right? And then you think about the different styles of armies throughout history, and when leaders fought with their men, with their men instead of hiding in the Oval Office, having caviar, and, you know, scrolling social media while someone's dying in the Korango Valley in Afghanistan, or, you know, something else like that. You just noticed how things have changed. So strength. There is none stronger than Allah. Okay? And you can see the fear angle comes in. Because when you fear something, you obey. Yo, yeah, some people will say, oh, yeah, your kids fear you. They just become more clever at lying and deceiving. But the fear is still there. But when your children no longer fear you, they no longer respect you. People will fear their bosses, but they won't fear God. Isn't that weird? Your boss will come in, and you're like, oh, everyone's like straightens up, makes it look like they're doing something. And then they stop slouching, they stop idle chatting. But when they see that they're transgressing the rules, they don't have that fear. And I'd argue when you have that fear, you look for more solutions. So there's something to think about that. It's really something to analyze. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Join the blog. Hope you're having a great day. Till next time.